it's Dave with Dii. Thanks for tuning in. We are doing our live show. We haven't done this for a while. Me and Daniel here. Daniel is working on the all the specifics of the live show right now, so he might fade in and out a little bit. Veda's here. Hey, Veda.
Oh,
We're live on YouTube right now.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Welcome.
Happy early anniversary.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're going out of town, right?
Not that I recall. So today we're going to be talking about handpans and the ones that the features that you like and that should be, affordability, quality, aesthetics, that sort of thing. So Daniel's looking to see if we can get the comments to pop up so we can watch the comments. I might be able to do it on my phone, but.
Yeah, I know. I got it.
So hang with us here for just a second.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Just keep on going, and I'll figure it out.
So a lot of people have questions about handpans. I always have to jog my memory what it's like to be a beginner because I've been doing this for so long. I'm Dave Beery, the proprietor of Dave's Island Instruments, and I've been doing this for 13 years here at Dii. Before that, I was making steel drums. My business at that time was called Smarty Pans Music, and I had been making steel drums since about 1993. And so I've been doing this for a good long time, about 30 years, tuning instruments made of steel like this. And so I always have to think back, what was it like to be a beginner and think about the things that beginners think about. But a lot of it has to do with the skill of the tuner. So whenever you're choosing a handpan, if you're looking for something that's a quality instrument, you want to look at the experience of the tuner. There's certain things like scales that also come up. People are interested in scales. What scale is quote-unquote the best scale, or that sort of thing. I've kind of found over the years that people have so many different opinions and so many different ways of looking at the instruments, and their needs are different. So a lot of it has to be, you have to think about it, what are your needs? What are you looking to get out of an instrument? So a scale is one of the things that you're looking for. What kind of scale do you want to have? Like a major scale, which is more of a happy sound? Do you want a minor scale, which is more of a meditative sound? Do you want to have lots of notes or fewer notes? Because it's kind of gotten lost in the mix these days with all of the information that's on the web these days. But in my opinion, when you have more notes, it tends to clutter up the sound a little bit, and you get a little bit less of a nuanced, really clear sound. So if you're looking for a really clean sound, you might want to have one that doesn't have as many notes, or it's not just filled up to the brim with notes. And then for those of you who are really interested in expanding your playing ability and really going for it, you might be wanting some more notes where the clarity of the sound might not be as important. So if you're in a meditation studio and you want to do meditations and that sort of thing, have a really nice clear sound, it might be preferable to just have your standard model handpan, that sort of thing. I mean, there's other I'm just going into it right now, just boom, headlong into some different details. But again, I'm kind of talking about it for an experienced player, so I always forget what it's like to be a beginner.
Yeah.
So help me out. What are some of the beginner questions that they have?
Well, let me.
Do we have
some comments?
All right.
Basically, I'm gonna just say hi to everybody. Teresa, how you doing? She got her new handpan.
Oh, right on.
Tanya, you're awesome. Coco, how you doing? Diane, and Coco had a question. Will you be demonstrating the pans that are for rent? I'm interested in for purchase.
Yeah, I can get a rental one.
Yeah. We'll do that in a minute. But basically, like Dave was talking about, we're just talking about right now. It's the buying season, and people have been buying handpans, and we've had a lot of questions on what to buy and stuff like that. So we'll definitely give some tips on that. And then also, if you guys have any questions on how to play the handpan, please put them down. We can answer them today. Also, I think I'll give my best tip, I guess, for handpans, and then Dave can give some tips for handpans for playing for you guys that are renting. I know some people are renting and need some tips or whatever. But a big thing is buying handpans because it can be daunting.
Yeah, there's so many varieties now.
Yeah, I know. It's one, you have to find people to buy the handpan, or where to buy the handpans and which one to buy. Is this one good? Is this one bad? Is one on Amazon good? Stuff like that. And there's there's a lot of questions behind that because I think the information it's not readily available to everybody.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any questions, please put them down. But
in the comments, because we can see the comments here. So if you guys make comments, we can hopefully address those comments.
Yeah. So Dave, you asked what were you asking?
Oh, well, just like the basics of handpans. So like again, the beginners don't even know the basics. So like one of the basic things that a lot of beginners don't know is like the size of the instrument. So these are 21-inch diameter handpans, and it's kind of become a little bit of a standard, the 21-inch. Some of our instruments for our rentals, these are 20-inch diameter, so it's slightly smaller. The original hang drum that came out of Switzerland was like a 20-inch diameter instrument, a little bit more compact, but it's a little bit more preferable these days to have the 21. Why? Why is it preferable to have 21 versus 20?
I don't know, actually.
All right, so
that's a good question.
There's in a handpan, you can see how it's got a hole in the bottom, right? This is called the goo hole, and it's got the notes on the top. It's an enclosed instrument, and so it's like if you're in your shower and you're singing, there's certain notes that really resonate a lot, and there's other notes that just kind of get buried and you don't really hear them as well. Same thing with a handpan or any kind of musical instrument like a guitar that has a body that has an enclosed body that has like a hole in it. There's a thing called a wolf tone, and a wolf tone is a thing that makes like certain notes vibrate incorrectly that you don't want to. It makes it sound dissonant. So it depends on the size of the instrument. The size of the instrument will change that wolf tone or make that little dissonant tone different. And so the notes on this instrument are all super clear because the wolf tone is somewhere right around a B flat. So on this instrument, I'm not really particularly happy with the way B flat sounds, so I don't even include it. So that's why we have this D minor Celtic minor, because every one of these notes has a super clear sound. So on this instrument, the 21-inch, it's B flat, but on the 20-inch, the note that's a wolf tone is a B natural, so it's a slightly higher note.
Wolf tone.
Yeah, so on that smaller instrument, the B, you wouldn't want to get an instrument that has a B natural on it, because that B natural has like a really weird dissonant sound. So those are the peculiar things about handpans that a lot of beginners don't really understand. Like they think that you can get any scale. Like how come I can't get this scale, or I want that note? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm not sure you want that note.
Well, like sometimes I think even when they come in, people kind of know about like the D minor.
Yeah.
And then, but then they don't know like the scales. Only the musicians usually do.
Yeah.
But you know, and like we have a standardized scale, but on the size wise, it goes from what we have 20-inch. Our smallest size is 20-inch.
Yeah, for the rentals, and we do a Luna Clarity occasionally for custom orders.
No, I just want to say because like when you're out there buying, you know, the size of the instrument can determine a lot of different things.
Yeah, it can determine the scales and the key.
And then also, you can find handpans from 20 inches all the way up to 24, I think. I've seen
pretty.
They're like 20. They're really big. So it's like, yeah, those are things that you want to look at. Some people even like, we have a mini handpan too, which is way smaller, which is really nice too. But yeah, sizes are.
Yeah. It's not just the size that fits in your lap that you have to think about. Like, is it comfortable? But it also creates certain dynamics with the scales and the pitches that are tuned to the instrument.
Yeah. Because like, I don't know, Dave knows better.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like the
size.
This D minor. That's why I really like these 21-inch shells for the D minor that we sell, the Celtic minor. It just has a really pure sound. That's why I stick with this scale so much.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a question, I think. Vike me, how you doing? Hey, how come? I'm gonna add this to the broadcast. Did it do it? Add to broadcast.
Oh, there it is.
How many good manufacturers? Oh, how come the handpan is not too popular in the USA? How many good manufacturers? Hope all this is well. Oh wow, cool. And then Coco asks, and we'll
what was the
answer.
question? How many good manufacturers?
How come the handpan is not too popular in the United States? And how many good manufacturers?
I always thought it was very popular in the United States. That's my impression, is that it is very popular in the United States. There are multiple makers in the United States. I'm not sure. I mean, it's funny. When I first started, there was literally like 10 in the world or 15 in the world or something like that. I was one of very few that were making them. But now I would say worldwide, there's hundreds of tuners worldwide. But I haven't really been keeping tabs on how many are in each state or the United States or anything like that, so I'm not really sure.
Right. All right, cool. Let's see. We'll hide this, get this out of here. Sorry. Then we had another question about the size. Coco is asking, they look different sizes but not sure. Oh, no, that's not the one. Sorry. That's not the question. Coco. Here's the question. Are these the two same size and tonation, etc.?
Okay.
I guess you're talking about these two.
Yeah, these two are the same size, 21-inch diameter, inside diameter. The outside, if you include the rim, it's usually like 22 inches. But the inside diameters are what I'm talking about. So yeah, these are the same. So this is one stainless steel, and we can talk about the different types of steel in a minute too. So this one's stainless steel, 21-inch diameter. This one's a nitrided steel with powder-coated, a clear powder coat on the top. And so it has a slightly different sound, a little warmer than the stainless. But they're both the same size. Like I said earlier, and I don't think we have a sample right now of our Luna Clarity, but this is a rental that we have that has the 20-inch diameter size. And again, like sometimes people will make a judgment call. They say, well, do I want super clear sound on the notes, or do I want it to fit in my lap better? So sometimes they want to fit it in their lap, and so they want the smaller one. And they're not as affected by like slightly little dissonant notes or that sort of thing. So it kind of becomes a judgment call after a while.
Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question, Coco and Vike. Also, Teresa is asking, is Dave playing the hybrid? It sounds lovely. That is not the hybrid.
Not a hybrid. We do have a hybrid over there, and we can pull it in a minute.
We can pull that out, but yeah.
Yeah, this is the Gaia. It's got an interesting bottom. I put a stainless bottom on it, and I burned it longer, and I put the Clarity coat on top of it, so it's got this gorgeous color to it. So it's a little bit of a unique item here that I'm showing to you. But yeah, this is the Gaia top with powder-coated clear powder coat on it.
It sounds very nice.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds very nice. So, let's start it. We talked about size, but let's say someone's ready to buy a handpan. What are you guys looking for? First, you have to find the place. Hopefully you find Dave's Island Instruments, but they're, like Dave was asking, are telling you there are different manufacturers. Right now, I don't have a list of people. Yeah. Like we know like the circles, and we've heard of other people, and we've talked to other handpan makers, but yeah, it's kind of tough.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably rattle off some names, but I would probably stop at around 10. I would probably start forgetting who else to name, but
right.
Yeah, there's at least 10 manufacturers in the United States that I'm aware of that are very good makers and that sort of thing. So
yeah, and then you can go to Amazon. They have handpans on Amazon. I don't know if we've done a video on Amazon handpans, but I'm sure you can find some stuff, and they're okay, I would say. And then you can also go to like Guitar Center, and then they have their handpans there, like the big box and companies, but those ones are okay.
You know, and again, it comes down to the customer. What do they need from the instrument? So I've actually, it's funny, I play tennis on the weekends and have fun with that. And I met a tennis player, and he says, "Oh, I bought one of those." When I told him that I make handpans, he goes, "Oh, I bought one of those." I'm like, "You did?" It's just random out of the blue. But I don't think he was the kind of guy that was like really into it. I think somebody thought it would be good as a gift, or he bought it as for himself, just for something for fun to do. And so he wasn't super duper really concerned about the sound quality. He just wanted to like jam out on a drum for a little bit. So I think that was fine for him. I think he got it online somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But for anybody that's interested in a nice quality instrument, I think that's really why we're here today, is just basically talking about what makes an instrument like a quality instrument.
Right. And then you were mentioning, it's up to the customer, and why you're going to play or how you think you're going to play is a big factor too, because we kind of ask that question is like, what are you going to use it for? Are you going to use it for personal use, just to play and be fun, or are you planning on playing for other people or sharing your music and stuff like that? So that kind of goes in the determination of what kind of handpan that you actually want. That's kind of crazy. So
let's talk a little bit about the different kind of metals that we use.
Oh yeah,
and then I also want to talk about the tuning styles.
Yeah. Well, so now you're planning on, you have to find a place to buy it.
Yeah.
Hopefully you come here to Dave's Island, and then what handpan do you want to get, and that will be determined by why or what you want to play or why you want to play it. And then now we'll go into...
Oh, actually, on the where, I want to follow up on where when you're determining where you want to buy it. One thing that we really appreciate about one thing we pride ourselves here at Dii about is the customer service. And one thing that when people come here, they're going to get live people talking to them.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a chat bot on our website, but we see those, and we might, if it's midnight, we might not answer immediately, but we will absolutely answer your questions one-on-one with a live person. If it's not chat, it's a phone call or an email, whatever. We do all sorts of different messaging. And also, if you go to some of these other retail outlets that are not really like somebody that makes one like myself, like I make the instruments that we sell, you might not get the follow-up customer service. So let's say something happens like a month later, 2 months later, where you drop it or something goes out of tune. Then who do you turn to? Who are you going to take it to? Who are you going to get it tuned by? All of our handpans that we sell here, they always get the first tuning is free. So let's say that a month later, some note just kind of starts bugging you a little bit. Maybe it went out of tune, which it rarely does.
It rarely
Literally, I mean, we of all the handpans that we sell, I would say like 1% come back to us for
That's
tuning within a long. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's very rare that we get instruments returned to us. Yeah. But like, if you went to some store down the street that didn't have a tuner on site, do you take it back to them for service? What do you do for service? It's like any musical instrument. Occasionally, it's going to need service, and so that's one thing we really pride ourselves on is the customer service and making sure that you know that you've got something to fall back on in the future, if in case you drop it or if the instrument gets damaged or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of handpan people or handpan owners actually find Dave's just because of the tuning, which is pretty crazy because there's not a lot of tuners out there. So Dave.
Thank you, Dan.
But so now you found a place to buy it. You kind of know why you want to do it. So what are you looking at in a handpan? And that comes down to the different types of metals. I would say.
Different kinds of metals. Yeah.
I think the first one was nitrided, which we don't have an example.
Well, no, this one's nitrided, but we put powder coating on it, so it's not it's not perfectly representative of that sound.
So what does nitriding do?
Yeah. Okay. So. Let me just start from the bottom, like plain old steel, right? Plain metal.
Oh yeah,
we call that plain steel. Is what you call it. And most handpans were made out of low carbon plain steel, and so a low carbon has a little bit more of a mellow sound. If you use like regular steel that you buy from Home Depot, it's going to be a higher carbon content, and it's going to have a little bit more of a bright sound to it.
Technical right now.
Yeah, exactly. But there's plain steel. And the problem with plain steel is that you can paint it or you can do things to it, but it has a tendency to rust. And so a lot of people do not like rust. They don't want to buy an instrument and have it rust because that's a big issue.
Yes.
And I agree with that. That's not something that you want to have happen to your instrument.
It's not a pretty sight.
Yeah. So plain steel, yes, you can paint it, but sometimes if it gets scratched, it'll start rusting where that scratch mark is. If you treat it with oils and that sort of thing over a period of time, it might start rusting anyway.
Have you heard one, like a plain steel painted one? Is that what they usually... I've never played a plain steel.
No, paint. Also, the other thing about paint, there's a difference between powder coating and paint. Like if you did a clear coat paint on a plain steel instrument, the paint is going to make it a drier sound. It's going to soak up some of the sound from the instrument, usually the high end, so it sounds a little bit muffled. Interestingly, when you put powder coating on an instrument, powder coating is baked on, so it's like a powder that is electrostatically applied to the metal, and then they put it into an oven at like 400 degrees, and it melts onto the surface of the steel. So it's a different process of how it's applied. It's much more durable, and it actually the heating process, I believe, also kind of contributes to a brighter sound. So that's been my experience. I get it back from the powder coater, and it has like a nice bright sound, and it has a little bit more sustain than like regular plain steel would have. So anyway, so that's plain steel. And what we do here is when we do our 20-inch shells, they are plain steel, but we put powder coating on them. So that's what really makes them more durable. And then we've got this is the nitrided steel.
Okay.
So the original hang drum was made with nitrided steel. Nitriding is a process of where they take the regular plain steel, they put it into an oven, take all the oxygen out of the oven, they put in like whatever other kind of gases, like I think it's nitrogen and ammonia or something like that. I'm not sure. But they put those in there, they put it up to a higher temperature, could be 1,000 degrees, something like that. And what happens is there's a chemical reaction that makes the steel like an Oreo cookie. So the Oreo cookie that's got the hard cookie parts on the outside but the soft center in the middle, that's the way the steel is on a molecular level. It's going to be really, really hard on the outside but still soft on in the inside.
Like a Tootsie Pop.
Like, yeah. And so what that does also is it creates a kind of a protective layer also, so it doesn't rust nearly as easily as plain steel. So it's an anti-corrosion process. It adds durability to the steel, and it also adds like a certain different kind of sound to the steel. So, and that's why it's kind of got this gray appearance. Nitriding isn't the most beautiful looking kind of surface. It has kind of a grayish blue kind of appearance.
Yeah, it looks more.
Yeah,
it's matte color.
Yeah, it's like a matte color. That's why
Metal.
when we put this clarity coat on here, this powder coating clear, it looks really nice. So anyway, so that's nitriding, and that was what the original hang drums were made out of. And then along the way came stainless, and the stainless here, there's no coating put onto this. There's no paint, there's no powder coating. It's just the stainless steel. The gold color is created by heating it at a specific temperature, and but it has a really nice sustain to the notes. The notes just sustain for a long, long time. So people really like the Aurus. We call this the Aurus, A-U-R-O-U-S is the way we spell it. It kind of means gold. So Aurus has this really nice sustain. It's a beautiful sound. It's easy to touch and easy to feel with the touch of the hand to get the notes to resonate. Exactly. But this one, the nitrided has a great sound too. But if you were here, rather than hearing it on your speakers at home, you would probably notice a slight difference between this one and that one. This one's a little brighter and this one's a little bit mellower.
Can you guys hear the difference?
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
Man, they're so close.
I know.
Yeah, they really are.
I can hear I heard the lower register though in that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it's a little warmer. Yeah.
This one's like.
Yeah. So anyway, those are the materials that are a little bit different.
So we have plain steel. We have nitrided.
Mm-hmm.
We have nitrided powder coated.
That's what this one is.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then we have stainless steel. And actually, I think we're kind of like the only ones that do the
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else
powder
does
coating.
this with the powder coated, but I like it. I think it looks and sounds great.
No, it does actually. It does have a different tonality to
Yeah.
it, which I think Teresa noticed on it online, so
Mhm.
which is really cool. So those are the materials, and I
Yeah,
think
materials.
someone had a question on that.
We're gonna want to talk about scales at some point too. and
Yeah.
Tuning
Actually,
styles.
Jan Sullivan. Hi, Jan. How do you choose a scale?
Okay,
That's what
perfect timing. We're gonna talk about scales.
We're gonna segue into it. Jan,
So-
thank you for the question. There it is.
Yeah, so let me give you a little history on my experience with scales. So when I first got involved with handpans, I didn't know what I was doing. I was able to tune them because I had experience tuning steel drums. So the tuning wasn't as much of a hurdle as understanding the scales and the nuances and that sort of thing. So at the shop here, I used to have a whole wall full of handpans. Like there might be 18 handpans on the wall, and they were all different scales. And as the years progressed, what I noticed, and this was completely just the way it worked with customers, we didn't try to organize it this way or anything, but people just gravitated towards the D minor. So I would have like an F sharp this, or a G flat this, or a C this, or whatever it was. All these different scales, minor, majors, and all that sort of thing. People really gravitated towards basically this scale. So
Which is?
It's D minor. This is D minor Celtic minor.
Okay.
And
Celtic.
yeah.
D Celtic.
and so I really like this scale. I think it's got just a lot of variety that you can do with it. You don't feel like you're locked in. There's certain scales, for instance, this scale here. Let me just show you this one. Yeah, that's good.
Go for it.
So this scale here is a Hijaz scale. And it's got a very Persian sound to it. And this is one of our rentals, by the way. It's a rental instrument, and I think this one's $150 per month for renting. So it's really cool, you know, that you can play this Persian style scale. But my perception is, with that kind of scale, you're kind of stuck on that scale. It doesn't really allow you to maybe play outside of that, the sound of that scale. This one, it does have its own meditative sound, but you could have a bass player or somebody else that's playing along with you, another musician, play different chords, and all of a sudden you can play in different keys and that sort of thing. So it allows some opportunity to play in different keys and just have more variety. Trust me, I really love the Hijaz sound. I think it's super cool sound. But if it was my only handpan, that would be the only sound I would be able to get out of it. So, and I'm sure other people have different opinions on it. I'm sure they do. But that's just the way I see it.
This is another scale. This is actually our beginner handpan. And it's a D curd, which you'll hear a lot too. And it is also a D minor scale. For Teresa, with her new handpans. So.
Yeah, the one difference on the curd versus the Celtic minor is this B flat right here. And we were talking earlier about the 21-inch diameter handpans. They do have a little bit of a swimming sound on that B flat because of the size of the instrument, and that's just nothing about the tuning style or the tuning of the tuner. It's just the instrument itself has a little bit of a flutter and inconsistency in that specific pitch.
And this is a C minor. This one sounds really pretty.
Yeah. So that's it's kind of a special one that we just recently made for a customer. They were interested also in 432. That one's tuned to 432 hertz, by the way, and that turned out pretty well. And here we've got a little mini.
This is a mini, so this is actually the smallest handpan I've ever seen, what size is it?
I think that's 17 inches diameter.
17-inch diameter, so, and this is an F scale.
Yeah, there's been a couple customers that recently bought the minis from us, and I think it was a lot, their decision making was about portability, I believe, and they also just wanted to use it kind of in a simple way as part of like a sound healing business that they work with. And so they were just looking for like a kind of a quick and easy way to get started with the handpan, real portable, lightweight, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
So in the end, I guess, what scale would you use? And people ask me, but normally we have the D Celtic in stock with our production pans. For the beginner pan is the only one that's like a D curd, but most of them are all D Celtic unless somebody asks us for one.
Yeah, and I usually have some scales that I like that I know that are going to sound good on this instrument, and so I try to steer customers away from scales that are not going to sound good on the instrument, because I don't want to make a scale that they're not going to like, or they're going to say, hey, that note sounds funny. And I already knew that it was going to sound funny. So, yeah, there's certain scales that sound good. And again, there's also different tuners have different tuning styles. And so the nuances of some of the way the scales come across is going to be a little bit different from tuner to tuner also.
Yeah, and actually I think someone just asked that question. Coco asked, sorry, let's see. Are the instruments tuned for the customers, or does each style have their own set? So that's basically what we explained.
Yeah,
most of our handpans are D Celtic.
Yep.
We have D curd, and then unless the customer asks us for something else.
Yeah. It's for whatever reason the D minor curd scale, which is like the beginner model that we have. If you look across like the internet, a lot of the scales that are sold these days on the internet are the curd scale. But again, for me, it's not my favorite scale because that B flat has a little bit of a wobble in it. But you have to also understand that sometimes with that B flat, you can do a couple different things with your with the melodies that you're creating. So it adds some potential options for melodic content or melodic ideas. But as far as clarity of sound, it's not the cleanest sound. So these are the things you have to balance out. Do you want to have like a lot of musical ideas and just deal with a couple little clarity problems? Or do you want to have like a really super duper clean sound and just maybe miss like a couple different options for melodic ideas?
And we've kept our scales pretty much the same. It's and we like the D minor scale, one, because it's very flexible, and two, we do a lot of lessons. And I've noticed some people out there online have come to the classes, and just being able to play with each other is pretty awesome. So you know, that's always a thing. But we have customers that they do want other scales, and they just buy new handpans. One, the mini is actually an F scale, but it's a complement to these handpans. You can play them both at the same time.
Yeah, so the mini that we have, it's tuned to an F major, but F major also works with D minor really well. So you can play both of those they're compatible with each other.
Here, we'll do a little jam.
Oh. All right.
Let me grab it just so you can see. So you have a D Celtic, and then this is an F scale. So go ahead. So that's always fun, and actually I love this mini for some reason, because of this reason, but also by itself it's very nice, and you only have 6 notes to mess with, so it's really cool.
Really easy to warm up to.
Just really easy. So nice.
Yep, so tuning styles are also different. I was going to talk about tuning styles. For instance, and it gets into the weeds a little bit with this stuff, but I tend to use more hammer work between the notes. So when I'm fabricating the instruments, I will take hammers and I will hammer around the steel that's between the notes, which a lot of people call that interstitial metal, interstitial steel, whatever you want to call that. And so I like the way it gets a nice skeleton between the notes, and it's nice and strong. And so you get a lot of really individual sound out of the instrument, the notes, and so they don't bleed into each other as much. So I really like the isolation of the sounds, the sustain of the sounds, just due to the way I build them. On the beginner pan over there, this was actually started out, with somebody else, and then I tuned it up after somebody else basically fabricated it. And I've noticed it's interesting, these notes, I have a tendency to have to hit them lower here to create the sound. If I hit higher, it has more of the octave sound, which isn't entirely terrible or anything, it's just different. So, and normally on mine I'll play more finger in the middle. So I'm slapping in the middle. These ones, I don't quite get the same response out of the notes when I play in the middle. So the tuning style, the initial tuning style that was done on these, and also the amount of work that was done between the notes is not nearly as much. So the notes kind of die out a little bit faster and have less sustain. So anyway, just as far as tuning style, that's what you're going to kind of notice from one tuner to the next. Some of the notes are going to be have more sustain, have a different feel. Like they'll just literally feel different when you play the instrument.
Absolutely.
So again, I really like mine. I think they sound great.
I like Dave's.
Yeah.
I like
think
Dave's.
they feel good and everything like that. So I'm really happy with
it
the
may be a
method.
little bit biased, but you know, it's kind of. Dave is good.
Well, thank you,
he
thank
makes
you.
great handpans.
Yeah.
I have to say, it's like amazing. So.
Yeah. So anyway, so those are some of the nuances about the tuning style. That if you just grab one off the internet somewhere, you're not always going to know who built it, how they built it, or anything like that. It might feel different compared to something you played before.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so those
So
are some considerations.
Just to, so basically for tuning wise, all our handpans are D minor in a nutshell. Whether it's a D Celtic or a D Kurd, both those two handpans you can play together.
You can play it together, yeah.
Yeah, so which is really cool.
Yeah.
So.
And like we were saying earlier, like this was a C minor, the one back behind me. It was a C minor 432. So we do custom orders from time to time, but
Yeah.
I'm like I said earlier, I'm kind of a.
But now, like, this is an Aris, and this comes with a 9-note top, but you can also get 3 extra notes on the bottom. Now, when you're talking about scales, this is where it gets a little bit different, because now you have the D minor, and how many scales are on here?
Well,
like
yeah.
24 or something.
Well, yeah, when you start adding the lower notes on the bottom, like there's an F over here, so now all of a sudden if you stop using the D here and you start using the F as the root note or the bass note, now it starts sounding more like a major instrument. Sounds way more happy, like you're waking up in the morning and having breakfast and watching the sunrise. But if you switch to the D, all of a sudden it has that more dark sound, more meditative, almost like you're watching the sunset instead of sunrise.
Yeah.
So by adding some of these notes on the bottom, you can kind of get different scales and different moods out of the instrument.
Yeah.
So that's what I really like about those.
No, that's what I love about the bottom notes, because you can actually, it's really awesome. So cool. So scales, you have D minor, D Kurd, and then anything else is going to be custom. We do have some that like the C minor scale, which I like. This one's a C minor 432. Oh yeah, and then we have the 432. A lot of people have, like, all our sound healers may have sound bowls or instruments that are 432 hertz, which if you haven't heard about it, it's just a different way of tuning your instruments, and that's what this one is, and we can actually do 432, right? Is that correct?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. Again, 432 also is in a interesting topic, just because some people it's funny, when I first started tuning the 432, I didn't really notice the difference. I had to compare it. Like there's a, well, let's see, in A. Where are we? Okay, these two C's. This is regular 440 hertz C, and this is a 432 C. You can see it's a little bit lower in pitch. People really like that sound, and I used to have to compare it to really understand and hear it, but now just somebody plays it and I'll be like, oh, that's 432. I can just feel it. My body just responds to it differently, and I think that's why people like it. The body responds to it differently.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say. I think 432 is supposedly an earth tone or something like that.
Yeah.
Frequency or something. But yeah. Awesome. So let's see. You found a place to buy it. You go in, hopefully it's here. Now you're picking out like what kind of metals that you want. Then you're picking out scales, which we showed you the options. If you guys have any questions on that, I just have, honestly, like, people usually start with the D minor, and then if they want more, then they just get another handpan.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, because they'll have different things that they want to do. Once they start playing, they're like, oh, I want to do this specific thing, and then they want to get a handpan for that specific thing.
Yep.
And then, and see, what other things do people look at? Pricing wise.
Yeah, pricing.
We have anywhere from our beginners to our top of the lines. One of the questions people always ask me, what is a beginner pan?
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of a loaded question, because usually they're either asking what's the cheapest or what's the easiest to play.
Right.
And it's kind of in instruments, not just handpans, but in all instruments, usually the most expensive is the easiest to play.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird.
It is interesting. It's ironic, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So for a beginner, sometimes, like I was showing you earlier, the beginner pan, it has a different response to the way I play it. and so it might actually be a little bit harder for a beginner to get a sound out of the instrument that's like something that they feel is pleasing. Whereas on the instruments here that we make here, might actually be easier to get that initial sound when you're as a beginner.
Yeah, actually, I had someone like they came in for an appointment and they were playing with the RS because it's so easy. You just touch it and it makes like a sound.
Yeah.
And then she was playing the other handpans, which she did, but she could see the difference, and like, oh yeah. But for me, when I first started playing, it was similar to this sound. I haven't gotten into this type of handpan. So when I moved from this to that, it was kind of like, whoa, this is awesome, And I got my practice on this, even though it's a great handpan. There's better. I would say just different sounding. I would say.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But let's see. Tanya says 432 lower, more relaxed, and 440 tuning. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. It makes you feel somehow. It brings you. Ooh.
yeah.
Brings you down a little bit. Not in a bad down. Not in like depressed, but just.
So, and then price-wise, actually, I did some price comparisons, and even I'll just use Guitar Center. Guitar Center is pretty much the same prices as ours, but ours are better. I'm just gonna say it straight out because I've seen them, and actually some of them I've seen are a lot more expensive compared to getting, say, even a Gaia, and it's not even close in sound. So I would say if you have an opportunity, if you see some handpans, always get an opportunity to check them out. That's the tough part, because we actually people find us, and sometimes they're just far away, and like some people will take like vacations to come here just to buy handpans.
See, another thing, quick thing on price. So I was telling you guys earlier about you could buy one online and it might be made differently because the tuner has a different style of tuning. That actually becomes a real problem if you buy one online for super cheap or something like that, and it works for a little while, but then a note or two goes out of tune. You might not realize it, but like some of the other notes might also be out of tune, but just maybe not as much as the one that's noticeable. Anyway, the problem with that is, and I've heard the same thing goes with like repair guys for like trumpets and trombones and stuff like. So sometimes they won't even work on an instrument. Let's say you bought it at a retail store that's like sells groceries, but they sold a trumpet that day, right? So they won't even work on some of those just because they know by the time they get into it and involved with it, it's going to cost more to repair it than it did to buy it. Right? So the repair cost is going to be higher than the sale price. And so that's kind of true with handpans also. You got to be really careful. So if you buy one that's at a really low cost and anything happens to it, frequently other tuners they won't even tune it for you. They will say, "Oh no, I don't tune anybody's instruments other than my own," which is totally fine because they make their own instruments. They're custom making their own and custom building their own instruments. And so they don't want to be working on somebody else's instrument. I have taken on that to some degree, and I've tuned. I tend to bring in other pans that people want to get tuned. So say if they get it built by somebody that, and they bought it online, they don't know who tuned it. But the problem with that is I've raised my price a lot because it takes a lot of time and a lot of experience to, first of all, figure out what the tuner did in the first place to get it tuned the way it is. So you have to do all this exploratory work trying to figure out the nuances of their tuning style. And then beyond that, you have to figure out how to do it consistently from one note to the next. And what frequently happens is it doesn't matter. I mean, I've got tons of experience, and I will still have beads of sweat coming down my forehead because the note can get away from you, and then you didn't know how they set it up in the first place. The next thing you know, you're working for an hour on like a note that just like one note because it something happened during the time you were working on it. And then also the other thing for tuners like myself who are working on somebody else's instrument that you're unfamiliar with, is sometimes you'll get it marginally better. You spent all this time on it, but it's really not that much better in the end. And then the customer's like, oh, and they spent all this money. So again, you just got to really think about the balance of that. Are you going to get a lower cost instrument just because it's lower cost, but in the future you might end up being in a bad spot because you can't get anybody to tune it.
Yeah, for sure. No, there is. We do get a lot of tuning, and Dave, goes out of his way to actually do it. And I think it's good and bad because we get to see the handpans, but at the same time, like Dave said, like him being a maker tuner, and that's one of the things. If you're buying a handpan, was the maker a tuner? And that's a huge question. I go because I've seen some handpans that weren't tuned correctly, and Dave has been a tuner forever, so he knows definitely what he's doing. So I give it up for Dave for doing that because he doesn't have to tune the other.
Yeah, part of me actually kind of enjoys the challenge, but on the other hand, it's frustrating.
Yeah. I could see how that it's just working on somebody else's work, which is
and it's also if you compare it to cars, like if you take your Porsche into a Porsche dealership, they're going to work on it. They're going to have that Porsche running purring like crazy, right? But if you take a car that's bottom basement price to the Porsche dealer, they're going to look at it and go, "You want us to work on that? Like,
exactly.
We don't even have the right tools for that thing." And then they have to do all this research and development to figure out how to. And then if you give it back to them and you say, "Well, it doesn't sound like a Porsche. How come it doesn't sound like a Porsche?" Well, it's not a Porsche. So, yeah, it's
Coco was asking how often do you get it tuned. I think you missed that part, but basically, there is no time.
No, well, yeah.
Or is there a time?
Well, the way I explain it is like, well, first of all, how many people bring their instruments back for us to get them tuned? Very few.
Very few.
And when they do, it's usually like a year or two later.
But usually it's not the instrument going out of tune.
Yeah,
it's something happened.
Yeah,
like
something
they
happened.
Rolled it,
yeah, they dropped it.
Or they dropped it.
Fell.
Whatever it was.
But the other thing too is I always compare it to pianos because people are more familiar with pianos. Some people will have a piano in their house for 25 years or more, and they'll play it, and they've never gotten it tuned, and they're still playing it, and they're still having a good old time. Yeah, there's a couple squeaky keys, but whatever. They don't care. They just keep playing it. And then there's the more professional player who will get it tuned like every time or before they perform anytime.
Yeah.
Because there's that one note that's just barely out of tune that's just really bugging them because they're a professional player and they've got these performances going on. So it kind of also has to do with, again, the intent of the player and what the player wants to do with the instrument. But in general, I think for beginners, what they're concerned with mostly, I think, is, do I need to get this tuned every month?
Yeah, no.
But no, a well-built handpan should stay in tune for a good long time. If anything, a handpan will tend to go slightly sharp together, so all the notes will go slightly sharp together, so you don't notice that it went out of tune. It's almost like the tide rising with all of the boats rise together, so you didn't notice that one boat went higher. All the boats will go together.
Yeah.
But if you brought it in to get it tuned, I would look at it on the strobo tuner and go, oh yeah, it needs a little adjustment here and there. And usually then what the customer does, they have this bright glow on their face because by just those little minor adjustments, they go, oh wow, it does sound better.
It does sound better.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've even seen one of our first Auruses when Dave first started making them. She came back actually this year for a lesson. It was kind of weird. It was 7 years ago, she said, and she goes, "Can you check my handpan? Is it in tune?" I played it, and I was all perfect. I was like, I guess. So that was 7 years ago. So yeah, everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
So, but normally the handpans honestly don't need a tuning for a long time. If you take care of it,
if
don't
well
drop
made,
it.
well made,
yeah. Stuff like that. So cool. That was a good question.
Yeah.
Where are we at? Someone often need a tune. Oh, care instructions. She's asking about care.
Oh yeah, we do have a list of care instructions on our instruments. Whenever we sell them, we include the care instructions. And a couple things notable, like don't try to tune your own instruments. I've had people try to tune their own, and it's always the worst idea you could do because it usually makes things worse and more difficult to get it back, and sometimes you can't get it back completely.
Yeah.
Another thing is wet environments. Doesn't matter what kind of instrument you have, plain steel, nitrided with powder coating or stainless. saltwater and saltwater environments are usually not the best environment for a handpan because the salt in the salt water can create corrosion and rust and that sort of thing. Less so for the nitrided handpans with powder coating, a little less so for the stainless. But what I found with the stainless was, because I tested it a little bit, I wanted to figure out how it worked. I put all sorts of stuff on the stainless to see what would happen. I put tomato juice, I put ketchup, I put vinegar, I put all these different things on there to see what would happen. But the one thing that really affected the stainless was salt water or salt. And it wasn't so much the initial salt water. It didn't boom and immediately cause any problems. It was when I let it sit for like a day or two, then it would slightly take off the color, this gold color, and leave like a silver mark underneath below. So it didn't damage the instrument. It didn't create rust.
Yeah.
And it didn't create corrosion of any sort. So it didn't damage the functionality of the instrument. It just damaged the appearance. So that's what I noticed with the Oris is the salt water. So if you do play like at the ocean or near the ocean, whatever, in our instructions, we basically say wipe it off immediately. Try to get like a stainless cleaner. When you wipe it off, by the way, don't rub it because there might be sand on there. Make sure you just like lightly brush it off or use a very soft cotton cloth to get it dry. And then when you put it into the bag to take it home, that saltwater environment, the air could still be inside the bag. So if you take it home, and this has happened to me personally with some of my steel drums, you take it home, a week later you open it, oh my gosh, all that moist air was still in the bag, and then it caused corrosion. So when you get home, you just open it up a little bit, let it breathe. But definitely cleaning it off after you play it in any of those kind of moist environments, and then using some kind of stainless polish on these. On the Clarity powder-coated versions, there's really nothing you really have to do other than clean it with like Windex or some kind of glass cleaner. Plain steel, if you have plain steel, that's going to be a problem if you play next to salt water. There's very few things you can really do to solve that problem.
Yeah. And actually, Dave explained it very well. The powder coating, honestly, is really awesome. And this is maybe one of the things that you would look at when you're buying versus the types of materials that you want. So if you're close to a beach, powder coating would probably be a little bit better, than actually a stainless steel. But everybody has their own. Stainless steel won't rust, and like Dave said, this gold can wear off.
Yeah.
And over time, what I've been seeing is like it actually patinas too. So like the oils on your skin make it a different color, which is cool. Actually,
it reminds me of saxophones. Have you ever seen the saxophone player that's playing saxophone for 30 years, and you look at their saxophone, it's a little bit beat up? Well, that happens.
Actually, that's good. That's a good like.
It happens.
Yeah, that's because.
But they love the sound of it. That's why they keep playing it, because it sounds great. Yeah. So you can do your best to try to keep them clean, though.
I've actually, I have a young student, and she has one of our older Luna models that was just powder coated, and she has a pool at her house and decided to fill that up with water. Bring it in the pool. Oh, wow. We were playing in the pool and everything, but you just have to dry it off.
Yeah, just make sure you dry it off.
Yeah, just dry it off. And like, if it gets water inside of here, this lip just sucks because the water doesn't come out. Yeah. So you have to put your hand in there with a towel and just totally wipe it down and stuff like that. So yeah, what I like about the powder coating is that it does that, because I travel a lot with the handpans, and powder coating seems to be a great coating because it doesn't mess up. Stainless steel, I've traveled with these. I haven't had any issues with the coating or anything like that. So let's finish this up with
first of all, if you have any final questions for us, put them in the little chat box. But traveling, a lot of times people have questions about traveling. Can I put it on a plane?
Actually, Coco just asked that.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, traveling with a handpan. Normally, even within our backpacks, we have a backpack that goes along the instrument with the 21-inch size instruments. On a typical large carrier size, it's like a national or international size plane, these will fit into the overhead compartment, so you can just bring it on board with you and put it into the overhead compartment, usually no problem at all.
This is an upgraded bag than what you would get with a production model. This is what I use to travel, and it's a soft bag, but it's really padded inside. Like normally if I'm traveling with it, it's kind of funny because I'll have the handpan in here and I'll put my clothes, like I'll lay them flat and then just to pack it up a little bit to like cushion it, and then yeah, and it goes right into the overhead.
Yep.
On local flights, it does not fit because the
right, it might be
overhead
smaller,
is,
it might not be as
the
good.
overhead is too small. So
Yeah.
like local flights, it's a tough
A
one.
little sketchy.
You might have to check it, but I have checked it and I haven't had any issues. The only time that I haven't had issues was this last time I went to Spain and our flight canceled and I had to I had to check the bag and had to check and transfer. So when I brought it back, it was like one note was out of tune. So Dave saw that.
Yeah, and that's kind of my experience too. The times that I've seen the worst damage to handpans when people are traveling is when, like Daniel said, sometimes he'll put clothing inside, and that's totally fine, like cotton clothing.
Yeah.
As long as there's no hard zippers, nothing like hard,
Yeah.
right? Nothing solid, that should be totally fine. But somebody put like a cell phone charger in their case or their bag one time, and then somebody opened it up to inspect it because they put it into baggage, and then the inspector just put it back on top of the instrument, and then the instrument gets damaged by the charger.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much like somebody dropped it or something like that. There was another instance that same thing kind of happened with me. I had a steel drum in a case, a hard case. The inspector opened it. When we got it back, well, I'm just assuming the inspector. That's the only way I can come up with this. But when we got it back on the flight, there was like a flat spot. So the only thing I could think of is they opened it to inspect it. They put it on some kind of table. It fell off the table and bam, it got damaged. So I think it's usually in the inspection process where damages occur. There was another instance where somebody had a really nice instrument, really durable case. It fell off of the whatever that little thing is that goes into the baggage compartment. Somehow it fell off. It was on the ground, and a forklift hit it, and it just totally demolished it. So there's certain things that you just can't avoid, no matter how durable your case is. So basically, what I suggest is that you just try to keep it as close to you as possible. Keep it on board in the carry-on luggage. One time, one of the stewardesses said, "Hey, we can keep it in the captain's closet." Sometimes they will put it in with the last baggage. They'll tag it and they'll put it in with the strollers and that sort of thing.
Yeah. That was a little bit better.
A
little bit better. Because like when I was in Europe, like you take the side, like Ryanair and stuff. This will absolutely not fit in the top. So I try to get it to where I'm checking it at the gate, like and then like I hand it off because they'll usually they're a little bit more careful when they're actually doing it that way. Yeah. But I've traveled with the handpan for the last 7 years, every year going to Europe. And the only time that it went out of tune was this last time. So.
Yeah, and we very rarely get anybody saying, "Hey, I went on a trip and my handpan got damaged."
Yeah,
I rarely hear that.
And I go for long trips. It's not like, and I'm like lugging this thing and it's banging around, and I'm surprised how well the handpan takes it.
Durable.
Yeah, it's pretty durable. It's not like you don't want to like bang on it, but it could take some hits and it's not gonna like mess up.
Yeah, the note that's most sensitive is going to be the ding notes. You don't want anything to crush it or press on it.
And Diva,
so you gotta be careful.
To answer your question, how much does a handpan in the case? I just weighed this with this black handpan with the RS, and it was like around almost 15 pounds. So.
Yeah, I think we usually put 18 pounds on our documents when we ship them with the box and the packaging and everything included.
Yeah.
They're around 18 pounds.
Yeah, so cool. Because we're having a ask to gate check it, yeah.
By the way, thanks so much for tuning in, you guys. It's nice to have all these questions. I'm glad you guys are out there and asking the questions and inquiring.
Yeah. So there was a lot of questions. I think we're at the end of this.
Yeah.
So basically, we find a good place to buy a handpan. Hopefully, it's Dave's Island Instrument. And then why you want to buy it, or what kind of style of playing, the different types of materials that you can actually get: stainless steel, powder coating, nitriding, plain steel. Those are the different types of handpans. Different scales. We have D minor, D curd, and D Celtic, and then you can also get other handpans, but those are just going to be custom scale ones. Usually, if you order from us and we don't have the scale, it takes about a month, and you'll have to talk with Dave just to make sure that like the scale goes well. We just did one in that C minor, which came out really nice. And then what was the last one? Pricing. Actually, Dave, for what Dave does, comparison. I think Dave can charge more, but we're in a good spot. So, and the last sale that we had, thank you guys, everybody that came to our sale. We had an awesome sale, and then actually there's a holiday thing coming up, so we'll keep you in touch with that. We're still hashing it out, but
you'll see the advertisement. So like us and subscribe to us on YouTube, and then on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. We do, and TikTok now. So look for the advertisements coming out for our little holiday deals.
Yep, holiday deals coming up. We sold a lot of the handpans, so Dave is hard at work right now.
Always working.
I know there's some beginners coming up, so look out for that advertisement. There's going to be, I think, a little deal on that. And then, Christmas is coming. You guys, if you're looking to get a handpan, this is definitely a time to do it, especially with all the stress in the world right now. I think people need good vibes.
Relax a little bit.
Yeah, so if you guys don't have any other questions, I think we're finished.
Yeah, we're good.
And we'll leave them with a jam.
Sure. Okay.
Actually, for those of you, I know you guys have the Dii Curd, or there's some rentals out there. I know the classes that I have had, the free classes, I would say continue to work on the 1, 2, 3 and just keep practicing the scale. Just like that. I use that every single time that I'm on the handpan. And so I just got really good at doing a scale. And it doesn't matter what scale it is. If you learn how to do the scale, it's just like a good basic. Do you have a tip?
No tips.
No tips.
But seriously, getting the feel of touching and getting a sound out of the notes, that's usually the biggest hurdle. After you learn how to get the sound out of the notes, and then after that, it's going to be a lot easier. So give yourself a lot of grace, a lot of patience, getting over that hurdle of learning how to play the instrument. And once you learn how to play it, you're going to be off to the races.
And practice. I can say it enough, but we are having, we're starting this month, but then going forward, every Saturday, we're going to have like a free lesson, whether it's steel drum, handpan, ukulele, pretty much for the whole month. Then we're talking about, like, for the handpan classes, people wanted more, so we might do a handpan jam. So if you guys have any comments on that, please share with us, what you would like to see maybe in a jam. But for next year, we might have this class because like the steel drum is working really well. If you guys want to learn steel drum, we have steel drum classes, and then I'm gonna reactivate. I haven't done ukulele in a while, so we're gonna do some ukuleles. I think the result at the end of the year is to have at our sale like kind of like a concert with all these people doing stuff.
Put it all together.
Yeah, so it's still in work. But stay tuned on our events and stuff like that, and check out our emails because we will be continuing to do this. A lot more people are getting handpans and want to learn more and more and more, and it's fun to actually do that with.
There was
one more comment. Let's see what's going on. Remember, play with the instrument. I let my inner child. Remember to play with the instrument.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Remember to play with it. Yeah, don't just play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
gotta
enjoy it. Yeah.
People like get kind of serious on the handpan, and it's not relaxing. So you don't work music, you play music.
There you go.
You play. So playing is fun. All right. So you guys are awesome. We're just gonna leave you with a quick jam here, and if you have anything else, just let us know. You can email us, contact us, chat with us, and go. So.
I'm already going.
You guys are awesome. Have a good one.
Yep. Have a great afternoon. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Dun, 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 pink waiting. Oh, everybody's going by.
It's always the fun part, trying to
Yeah,
figure out how to
that's
turn
right.
it off.
Later.
Toodaloo.
Cheese.
All right, Jackie took some behind the scenes footage.
Nice. Thanks.
I did.